Dylan here with Anglers Covey. Today we're going to be coming at you with another tying video. Going to be focused on one of my favorite year-round attractor patterns when you're nymphing. It's going to be the Mayers Mini Leech. One thing I love about this is it really catches the fish's attention, and in the winter it gives them a slightly bigger food source than what they might be seeing. So super effective, and I really like it in the olive colorway. It seems to just be one of my more productive patterns. So let's get to tying. All right, so with the size 14 scud hook in the vise, we're gonna wrap some 6/0 olive thread onto that hook here. Start about a quarter of the way back, get the thread on there, and then we will snip our tag end. From here, we've got some medium olive tinsel or green hollow tinsel. This just adds a little bit of flash and extra attractant on the fly for those fish. If you're going to tie a bunch of these, feel free to pull a lot off. I'm just going to snip a little bit here. So we'll tie this on. Down to the curve of the hook here. I want to leave enough of that hook to catch on to the fish, and then we'll run our thread back up to the top, right about halfway point. So once we get that tinsel on there, we will begin to wrap it around. Doesn't have to be overlapping wraps, but you want it to kind of cover that whole shank of the hook here. So. And we use the size medium because it just helps with covering the hook. Less wraps you got to make overall. And then we'll tie that off here. And snip it. So for the third material, we're going to be using zonker strips. Micro works great as well as standard. You don't have to go much bigger than that. I think I personally like to use standard. It just gives a little bit more of a tail there, but we got micro on hand today, and that's what we're using. So once you got your zonker tail, you're going to pull a little bit of that fur off the top to expose that hide and give you something to tie down on, or to tie it down with. So you got the hide there. Tie that in. Once again, always make sure you're not crowding the eye of that hook. And boom, it's pretty simple. Once you got that tied in, I always like to cut about an inch worth of the hide. Not necessarily the fur, because that's always going to stick out a little bit more, but about an inch of the hide is where I'll cut these. Doesn't ever have to be perfect. That's the beautiful thing of fly tying. And that is that. So that's material number 3. For material number 4, we're going to be tying in some olive ostrich herl. This herl just gives a little bit more material on the head of the fly. So I like to pick one that's got a good bit of thick feathers around it. Doesn't have to be perfect though. Got your feather here, or your plume, and then you're going to strip it a little bit by the end, and then clip a little bit of that off. I always like to try and tie it with the spine of the feather up. That just helps with wrapping the right way when you get to doing palmering it on there. Tie it in, move the thread to the eye of the hook, and then you can begin to wrap this. If you have hackle pliers, it seems to be the move. Hackle pliers just make it a little easier grabbing the feather. And tie it in there. When you're clipping things like this, always make sure to leave your scissors open. and pull the feather through so you don't clip any of the other materials. And it's as simple as that. We'll go and do our whip finish, and that is the Mayers Mini Leech. Simple as that. Great high quality effective pattern all throughout the year. And that, my friends, is the Mayers Mini Leech. As I mentioned, it's super simple, highly effective pattern. As you saw, it really only takes 4 materials, and you can tie this within about 2 minutes. So really effective pattern to always keep in your box year round, but I specifically really like it during the winter time. Come and get your materials when you're ready. We'll see you around.